Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, go back to Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna. Sorry, it's Tuesday and speaking in English. Sorry about that. You okay for translation? You got okay. Yeah. Sorry. Hare Krishna. So today we're continuing with the 5th canto, 18th chapter. We'll be speaking on verses 5 and 6. So this is text 5 on the board. Vishvodbhavastana nirodha karamate yakartur angikritam apyaparvrita yuktam chatit chitram tvayi karya karane Sarvatmani vyatrikte cha vastutaha Vishvodbhavastana nirodha karamate yakartu angikritam apyapavritaha yuktam nachitram tvayi karyakarane sarvatmani vyatirikte cha vastuta. Vishvodbhavastana nirodha karmate yakartu angikritam apyapavritaha yuktam nachitram tvayi karyakarane sarvatmani vyatirikte cha vastuta. Yuktam nachitram tvayi karyakarane sarvatmani vyatirikte cha vastuta. Vaishnavis. Vishvodbhavastana nirodha karamate yakartu angikritam apyapavrita yuktam nachitram tvayi karyakarane sarvatmani vyatirikte cha vastuta. Vishvodbhavastana nirodha karamate yakartu angikritam apyapavritaha Okay, synonyms. Vishva, of the whole universe. Udbhava, of the creation. Sthana, of the maintenance. Nirodha, of the annihilation. Karma, these activities. Te, of you, O dear Lord. He, indeed. Akartuhu, aloof. Angikritam, still accepted by the Vedic literature. Api, although. Apavritaha, untouched by all these activities. Yuktam, befitting. Na, not. Chitram, wonderful. Tvayi, in you. Karyakarane, the original cause of all effects. Sarva Atmani, in all respects. Vyatirikte, set apart. Cha, also. Vastutaha, the original substance. Translation and purport, well, just translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Lord, although you are completely detached from the creation, maintenance and annihilation of this material world and are not directly affected by these activities, they are all attributed to you. We do not wonder at this, for your inconceivable energies perfectly qualify you to be the cause of all causes. You are the active principle in everything, although you are separate from everything. Thus, we can realize that everything is happening because of your inconceivable energy. Now I'll go on to the next verse, because there's no purport. Verse 6, Vedan yugante tamasa tiraskritam rasa taladyo nrituranga vigraha pratyada devai kavaye biyachate tasmai namaste vitate hitaya iti. Translation. At the end of the millennium, ignorance personified assumed the form of a demon, stole all the Vedas, and took them down to the planet of Rasatala. The Supreme Lord, however, in his form of Hayagriva, retrieved the Vedas and returned them to Lord Brahma when he begged for them. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, whose determination never fails. Purport. Although Vedic knowledge is imperishable, within this material world it is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. When the people of this material world become too absorbed in ignorance, the Vedic knowledge disappears. Lord Hayagriva, or Lord Matsya, however, always protects the Vedic knowledge, and in due course of time, it is again distributed through the medium of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the trustworthy representative of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, when he again asked for the treasure of Vedic knowledge, the Lord fulfilled his desire. Omagyanat Marandasya Kyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Vishnamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Navishesha Shanivadi Pastyati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Shri Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So this, there's a lot to unpack in this couple of verses. Just talk a little bit that in this chapter, Shukadeva Goswami, he's talking about how the worship is going on Jambudvipa. So there's 7 islands, which are known as Jambu, Shaka. This is from the C.C. Madhya-lila 20:218. So the verse is, within the universe, the Lord is situated in different spiritual manifestations. These are situated on 7 islands in 9 sections. Thus the pastimes are going on. So then in the purport, Prabhupada elaborates how the 7 islands, one of which is Jambu, and he mentions the other 6 also. So those are also known as planets. Outer space is like an ocean of air, he says. So just as there are islands in the watery ocean, these planets in the ocean of space are called dweeps, or islands in outer space. Then he goes on to say there are 9 khandas, and then he lists the 9 khandas, one of which is Bhadrashva. So these are different parts of Jambudvipa. So there's Bharat, Kinnara, Hari, Kuru, Hiranmai, Ramyaka, Ilavrita, Bhadrashva, and Ketumala. So these are different parts of Jambudvip. Prabhupada explains that a valley between two mountains is a kanda, or a varsha. So that's interesting. So that's a bit of the context of why this is being talked about. Now Shukadev Goswami is going to explain how the Lord is worshipped on each of these sections of Jambudvip. So there's different deities which are worshipped. So now it's talking about Bhadrashva Varsha. The ruler is Bhadrashva. He's the son of Dharmaraj. And he lives on Mount Shringavan on the eastern side of Mount Meru. So the Bhagavatam includes all this kind of information. We might wonder how it's going to help us in our daily life, you know, all this information. But it's one of the topics of the Bhagavatam is the universe, so we can understand the universe around us. And it's also one way, when the Bhagavatam explains the material world accurately, then it's also one way that our faith can be increased. So by seeing how Ayurveda works, or these different material forms of Vedic knowledge, then we get faith, and gradually we can go deeper and deeper into the real important topics of the Bhagavatam, which of course is related to the soul and its relationship with Krishna. So that ultimately that's what is the essence of the Bhagavatam, and that's what we need to get to. But all this other information is there just to give us faith, but also to see how even in the material world it can be looked after in a dharmic and Vedic and spiritual way, like on the 9 sections of Jambudvip. The Lord is worshipped continuously with wonderful prayers, which are said to be recited very carefully. The reciters are not just doing it out of because they have to, because it's their job, because they're getting paid to do it. They're doing it very carefully because they actually have devotion in their hearts. And ultimately, like when we chant Hare Krishna, that's a prayer. You know, we're praying to Krishna. So this is ultimately the best activity that we can do in this world, that we can learn how to pray properly to the Lord. One other aspect of this was that Krishna is the source of all avatars, just like Hayagriva, they all come from Krishna originally. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So in verse 6, then it's described how this demon, who is described as the personification of ignorance, actually his name is Ajnana. So he stole the knowledge. So in the Bhagavatam 10.2.19 says, when the asuras or the demons become very powerful, they try to hide the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and spread materialistic knowledge. And of course in the Bhagavad Gita as well, there's in the chapter 4, there's a section in verses 2 and 7, especially yada yada hi dhammasya klani bhavati bharata. In text 2, that's text 7, the supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way, but in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. And verse 7 is, whenever and wherever there is decline in religious practice, a descent into Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So the Vedas were lost, the Lord retrieves, Brahma begs, and the Lord gives. So this is a common pattern, right? That there's a calamity, then there are prayers, and then the Lord gets involved. The Lord just doesn't automatically get involved. Think, well, why not? And the Lord there's a few things going on. Yes, and the Lord is basically he's indifferent to the material world, but he's not indifferent to the sufferings, especially of his devotees. And in one sense, the world is a machine and is designed to rectify and facilitate those with desires which are not in their best interests. But they're facilitated anyway. Conditioned souls, even though they're in ignorance and they're wishing for bad things, they get them, but then they get their lesson as well. So the Lord doesn't just say, stop, no, you can't have it, stop, you can't have it. He's actually set things up so that people can learn from on their own, because ultimately we have free will. The gates of Goloka Vrindavan are not there to keep people in. It's not a prison. It's everybody's there by their own free will, and it's everybody's best interests to go there. But this whole pastime is also, you could say, that it's reflective of the soul's position also, of our position. Like we have lost, we've come into a very unfortunate position where we've lost real knowledge. And now we were suffering in the material world. That's reduced a little bit now because we're in Krishna consciousness. But then ultimately we came to the point where I can't take this anymore, and we just get on our knees and pray to the Lord, please, with sincerity, help me get out of this world. And then Krishna immediately reciprocates in far out ways with every individual. He makes a special arrangement, just like he came as a boar and saved the planet from the bottom of the universe on his tusk. And he came in so many wonderful forms, like this form is Hayagriva, but also the Lord came into our lives, each individually. He came in a very personal way to retrieve us from the darkness of ignorance. And the cause, it's the Lord's mercy, but without prayer, where would that? That's what calls the Lord. Just like Lord Chaitanya came, he's the most merciful incarnation of the Lord. But he came after Advaita Acharya was calling him. There were prayers, intent prayers by the Lord himself, praying for his own, appearance. So the importance of prayer cannot be minimized. We really need to take it seriously, learning how to pray. I was listening there's a podcast called Wisdom of the Sages online. There's a couple of devotees, senior devotees, who are speaking, and they're saying how Raghunath was saying how when he was first reading the Bhagavatam, he used to really enjoy the pastimes and the fights and goats' heads being put on the bodies of humans and all this excitement going on. And then when it came to the prayers, he'd just kind of flick past the prayers because it was a bit boring, a bit more action. But actually this is a very important aspect of the Bhagavatam, to repeat these prayers of the devotees towards the Lord. And Prabhupada recommends also that we should learn to pray like those devotees, but we can also use those prayers ourselves, to just repeat those prayers, like the prayers of Queen Kunti, or so many devotees have prayers. So it's like a blueprint, you can see, and you can analyze it. If you go through a prayer, you can see what is, like my Guru Shivaram Swami recently gave a podcast, and he was mentioning, in response to a question, what was the question? It was about pure praying for things which are not necessarily Krishna prema, but may facilitate us in our service. So it's not mundane, but it's not a prayer for just pure devotion either. It may be a prayer for facility in our service. Maybe, please somebody give a donation because I need to fix the altar. So it's not a selfish prayer, but at the same time it's not just a prayer glorifying the Lord. There's I want something. It's for your service, but I want something. So then Guru Maharaj was saying how, the Lord's Prayer, like the Christians pray, Lord, actually I never really said it much. This, your kingdom come, right, on earth as it is in heaven. So he said that's like a pure prayer. But then they go on, give us this day our daily bread. He said this is karmakanda, you're just asking for. So there's aspects of Christianity even where the prayers are selfless and just wishing for the Lord's happiness and for other people's benefit from the Lord without any personal gain. So the Lord's pastimes are continuously going on, and like the Vedas were lost and then recovered, and knowledge within our heart is lost, but it can be recovered through prayer and action on the instructions of our spiritual masters. But the pastimes of the Lord go on, and recently there was a pastime in Mayapur, which I can repeat. I don't know if you read it. Did everybody hear about that? What happened in Mayapur recently? There was a deity. Okay. Well, let me read this, because it's from our godbrother, Kartik Chandra Prabhu. Does everybody know him? He's a Bengali devotee. This happened with Ramanuj. Ramanuja. He was here for one winter. He was cooking for the deities here. So they're very close friends, both godbrothers in Mayapur. They're both Bengalis. So I'll just read this. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances or glories to Srila Prabhupada. My name is Kartik Chandra Das, and I'm a disciple of His Holiness Shivaram Swami. I would like to share with all the devotees an extraordinary and unexpected experience that occurred in Mayapur, an incident that appears to be both miraculous and deeply auspicious. 29th of November, so this was like just over a week ago, around 10 p.m, we were returning from Belpukur Madan Gopal temple after Vaishnav Seva there. While going underneath a large banyan tree, I suddenly felt as though something was standing in front of my motorbike. I immediately stopped, but there was no one visible. A moment later, I heard a whisper close to my ear. I looked around again and saw no one. Feeling a little disturbed, I started the bike and carried on. Later that night, I had a vivid dream. I saw a lady dressed in a red sari with red bindi and red kumkum. She spoke to me in Bengali, telling me that she needed Ganga water to be offered to her in order for her to be liberated. When I woke up, Ramanuj, my godbrother, who was also staying with me, showed me a recording he had made while I was asleep. Apparently, I had been murmuring a Bengali poem in my sleep. The poem described a kund where Mahaprabhu used to bathe and stated that within this kund, a deity was waiting to be found and rescued. The poem also said that whoever rescues this deity would immediately establish Nitya Seva, and whoever is keen to take darshan of the deity with sincere devotion would receive Krishna Prema. I had no recollection of saying any of this, yet the recording was clear. So Ramanuj was really he recorded it. He was on the ball. It was great. What he said in the recording. Yai kunde Gaurachand korilen snan, the kund where Gaurachand took bath. Saistane acheik takur mohan, in that place there is a glorious deity. Adiru uda yahader hate, whoever rescues this ancient form, Shishirada Shamasunda ki jai. Nitya Seva Pratishta Kuribe Sate Sate, they will immediately establish Nitya Seva. Vigraha Darshane Hoibe Yaramati, whoever will have inclination to take darshan of this deity, Krishna Pabe Obosoi Hoibe Targati, that person will surely get Krishna and be liberated. In the morning, me, my godbrothers, and devotee friends began trying to identify which kund Mahaprabhu used to bathe in. With research, we found references to 3 places. 1, the Ganges. 2, Gaurakund, near his birthplace, Bhakti Ratnakar, Sajantoshini. 3, a Sarova near Kolavecha Sridhar's house, where Mahaprabhu would bathe and play when tired after Kirtan, Navadvip Mahatmya. We decided to take Ganga water to these locations and sprinkle it, thinking the lady might be a wandering spirit seeking liberation. After Mangalati, we went to Kolavecha Sridhar's house near the Jagannath temple. We planned to go to Gaurakund next. I sprinkled Ganga water around the area where the Sarova used to be. Then I felt inspired to walk into the forested area nearby, thinking perhaps the spirit might be there. As I entered, my feet suddenly felt heavy. I fell over into some dense bushes. Because of the fall, I noticed a half-buried old iron box hidden deep within thick vegetation, an area where there was no light and where it would have been impossible to spot under normal circumstances. I pulled the box out while Ramanuj, who felt scared, recorded everything. The box was extremely old. The metal was so rusted that it turned to powder at the slightest touch. It was tied with equally old iron wire. We discovered a deity, heavily rusted, old and damp, tied with a wire on the box. When we freed the deity, we saw that it was a form of Meenakshi Devi, Parvati. Inside the box, wrapped in decomposed cloth and cotton, we found a very ancient small Gopal deity, rusted but intricately carved. Both deities were clearly very old. Later, His Grace Jananivas Prabhu came to our apartment where we took the deities. He came and saw the deity of Devi. He identified her as Prodha Maya, the same deity described in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Navadvip Mahatmya. He said that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had written that Prodamaya would reappear in Mayapur, after which Mayapur would again flourish. He said, she is the proprietor and owner of Mayapur Navadvip Dham. Jananivas Prabhu immediately began kirtan in front of the deities. His secretary said this was the first time he had led a kirtan for 2.5 years. So he was very inspired. His Grace Jananivas Prabhu instructed us about worship, the process, and also said there should be a temple built for her. I informed my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Shivaram Swami Maharaj, and he was very excited to hear about such a divine incident. He gave instructions for their proper worship and service. Later, His Grace Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, His Grace Madhava Hari Prabhu, and other exalted devotees also came and took darshan of Prodamaya and Gopal. Prodamaya has arrived finally in Mayapur, and Mayapur will flourish again like its ancient glories. It is significant that she arrived at a time before the inauguration of the TOVP, and I feel fortunate and humble that she chose me and my devotee friends for such a historical service, seeking blessings and dust from the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas. Your servant Kartik Chandra Das. Kartik Chandra Prabhu ki jai. Prodamayi Devi ki jai. Gopal ki jai. So that's wonderful, huh? So the pastimes of the Lord are going on. His sincere devotees are enacting his will, and he's again becoming manifest. So there's no such thing in Krishna consciousness, there's no such thing as standing still, right? So we're either going forward or we're going back. So similarly, on this planet, at the moment, it seems we're going forwards. These deities are being revealed, temples are manifesting, Krishna consciousness is expanding. And simultaneously, you could say that the world is becoming a more dangerous place as well, with different leaders in charge. But this is just karma, and the real significant thing is Krishna consciousness. Like when Srila Prabhupada first met his Guru Maharaj, and Prabhupada said that first we get the English out of India. English, problematic people. So he said, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, no, the only lack in this world is of Krishna consciousness. So, and Prabhupada immediately understood, this is my spiritual master. He has such faith in Lord Chaitanya and his words and his movement, and he immediately surrendered to him. So that's the only lack is Krishna consciousness in the world, and practically within our own lives as well. It's like this pastime is, you can see it about the Lord saving the Vedas from the darkness, from the ignorance personified, this demon, Ajnana. And also in our lives, we're also being saved. But also we can be instruments as well, right? Like now it's the Prabhupada Marathon. So just as we were fortunate enough to receive the mercy of the devotees, so we should also share that mercy with others. Now there's the printing press and the internet, and we can easily give the Vedas to people who are suffering so much in ignorance. And who knows how many prayers are being said. I think more and more prayers are being said in the world. So sometimes like Krishna says, he favors his devotee by taking everything away. So sometimes he makes people's lives unbearable, In the First World War, there was a saying, there's no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole. Because they have these places in Belgium and France where they were in ditches in the ground for years. They were just not moving practically, and then they would try to go forward, and then nobody would make it. But these foxholes are where explosives would explode, make a hole, and so when the soldiers went across, then they would hide in these holes made by explosives. So they were called foxholes. So anybody who was in a foxhole, there was no such thing as an atheist in that situation. You know, they could understand death is very near. Prabhupada said, with Maharaj Parikshit was fortunate because he knew when he was going to die. The snake bird was coming. But he said, we're not so fortunate because death could come at any moment. We don't know when death is coming. So we think we're going to live a long life and we can be serious later, but we need to understand that death is always at our shoulder. Okay, thank you very much. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Horse form, or which form is the higher grip form?
I think he's a horse, right?
Horse,
Yeah.
kind of horse.
Yeah, it doesn't mention it in the, but that's what I remember also.
Okay, because
Like
I did
horse's
think
head.
Yeah.
Without, not horse's body though, right?
Not horse body, but the form is the head is horse, but the form
Yeah.
is different.
Yes, it comes in really
something like
unique.
Okay.
Yes, the Lord is unique.
Yeah.
Just so people don't get confused. It's not a normal horse.
You're not normal. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the
Hare Krishna. It's amazing pastime. Yeah.
What happened with this meeting? Now it's worshipping in Mayapur, or what will?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Ne eldobtam a kávát. Igen, jó szóltál. Köszönöm. Jó, köszönöm. Elhiszem meg az autóba, és itt fogyasztani. Fogyaszt.